Would you like to be able to hit your opponents a little bit easier? I can think of a pretty easy way in order to get that advantage simply by flanking the creature. Flanking is when you and one of your allies kind of get on opposite side of an opposing creature, and that creature just has to divide its attention, and therefore it gets a -2 AC penalty and becomes flat footed simply because of this particular maneuver. Well, my name is Don. I'm trying to be the Sly Strategist, and let's go ahead and get into it. So, flanking occurs when a creature is forced to defend itself from multiple enemies on either side of it. Basically, what you're trying to do is you are trying to split that creature's attention. And because both of you are potentially going to attack that creature, it doesn't know which one to look at. And therefore, it has to spend so much time trying to make sure that it is properly defended against both opponents that could attack it at any time. It becomes flat footed to both of those particular attackers who are flanking it. When you do flank a creature, that creature becomes flat footed, which is a -2 to AC, and it is vulnerable to sneak attack at that point. But one point to kind of bring up is that creature is only flat footed to those enemies that are specifically flanking it. So if you have multiple people within your party that are surrounding a creature, monster, something along those lines, it is only the ones that are flanking it. Now, there could be multiple pairs of flanks that are going on, and that's perfectly acceptable, but only the allies that are flanking the creature are the ones who will get the flat-footed condition. Now, there are a couple rules to flanking, and that is you and your ally must be on opposite sides of the creature, and very specifically, a line drawn between the center of your space and the center of your ally's space must pass through opposing sides or opposite corners of the foe's space. Now, this positioning is pretty important, and we're going to do a couple examples here in a little bit. Now, both of the flankers have to be able to act. So one can't be unconscious or something along those lines. You must be wielding melee weapons or be able to make an unarmed attack. So if there is no threat of a melee attack, then the potentially flanked creature isn't necessarily forced to defend itself. You can't be under any effect, something that would stop a melee attack, and you both must have the enemy within reach. If you are wielding a reach weapon, you can use your reach with that weapon for this purpose. So if you have a 10-foot reach weapon, then you don't necessarily need to be right next to the creature. You could be a bit further away and still be able to flank. Now, with this, let's go ahead and go into a few examples. Now, here is the first example I wanted to do about flanking. So in this particular scene that we have here, our party is surrounding an ogre warrior, and there are two guard dogs that are part of the ogre's party. In this particular case, we have Crag and Emily are on either side of the ogre warrior, and they are flanking that ogre warrior because they can draw a line to each other that passes through opposite sides of the ogre's space. The ogre is flat-footed to them, taking a -2 circumstance penalty to its AC, and would be susceptible to a sneak attack by Emily. Now, in this particular case, Ira here would not be flanking the creature because he can't draw a line to Crag that goes through opposite sides, nor can he draw a line to Emily and cross opposite sides of the monster. There is a potential for Ira and Anseal to flank the creature. However, Anseal does not have a reach weapon, and therefore the flank wouldn't occur. The only way it would occur is if Anseal moved in, and then in that case, Ira and Anseal would be flanking. Now, the guard dog and the ogre warrior are flanking Anseal simply because the ogre warrior has a melee attack with 10-foot reach. Because of that 10-foot reach, this guard dog and the ogre warrior will be flanking Anseal because a line can be drawn through the ogre warrior to the guard dog that does cross opposite sides of Anseal's token. Let's move on to our next example. Now, in our next example, Crag and Imley are still flanking. They are on opposite sides, and a line drawn would cross on opposite sides of the Ogre Warrior. Ira is not flanking. However, the Guard Dog and the Ogre Warrior are flanking Anseal because they are on opposite corners. Now, at this particular point, Ira and Anseal would not be considered flanking. However, if Ira did move to this square here, then both of them would be flanking the creature. There is one other thing I would like to say, and that is if you had a case where the battlefield was set up like this with the Ogre Warrior, Anseal, and the Guard Dog in a diagonal line, because of the Ogre Warrior's reach, this would still be considered flanking. This technically would be 15 feet. However, as part of the rule with reach weapons, it can go through 2 squares, and in a diagonal, this would still be considered a flank, and Anseal would be flat-footed to both the Guard Dog and the Ogre Warrior. However, because Anseal does not have reach, Ira and he would not have flanking unless he moved forward. Now, I hope you enjoyed this quick tip on flanking. It is a really easy way to get a better hit in on a creature, being able to do kind of more against them simply because that creature will become flat-footed. And it really is just smart battlefield positioning. You can't always do this battlefield positioning. If you're in tight corners or you can't get around the creature in order to flank, that's fine. But when the opportunity presents itself, it is something that you can do that only costs your movement action. So I do hope you like this video, and if you did, feel free to like, subscribe, or hit that notification bell. But whatever you do, I hope you have a great day and happy adventuring. Thanks.